Experts predict that producing meat in a lab using tissue engineering techniques or lab cultured meat will one day be a much more sustainable, nutritionally equivalent, and without the ethical concerns of typical meat production. However, producing meat economically in a lab remains a problem. Now, Penn State chemical engineers suggest that using computers to analyze the metabolic needs of livestock animal growing cells or genome scale metabolic modeling could help food scientists design processes and growth media that produce meat at scale suitable for commercialization. To this day, cultured meat alternatives remain prohibitively expensive. By far, the biggest expense is the cost for the components that make up the cell growth medium. Metabolic modeling can help find ways to come up with nutrient combinations that would be less expensive and more in tune with the metabolic needs of the growing cells. Metabolic modeling uses computers to determine how genes produce proteins in an organism, such as cattle and chickens. The goal then would be to take that information to precisely guide the production of cultured meat that is both high quality and as cost effective as possible. To make meat using this process, researchers take cells from animals and then multiply these cells many times over. Currently, this process is restricted to small-scale operations in labs, which makes it too expensive for average consumers. However, by producing larger volumes of meat, lab-cultivated meat may become a more desirable alternative to current meat production. The researchers who released their review in a recent issue of the Journal of American Institute of Chemical Engineers suggest that reliance on the current meat production is causing growing environmental and health problems. According to the researchers, raising livestock is responsible for approximately 18% of greenhouse gas emissions. Livestock directly or indirectly accounts for 70% of all agricultural land, amounting to 30% of Earth's land surface and for over 8% of global human water use. The amount of meat that is being consumed is increasing, and if we look at the amount of resources required to meet that demand, including the land and the crops required to feed the animals, it has a big impact on the environment. In industrial agriculture, there is also an increased chance that diseases such as viruses and bacteria are going to spread within the herds. Cattle also produce methane, so there are some climate impacts as well. Because raising livestock also raises animal welfare concerns, lab cultivated meat may be an appealing option for people who are opposed to meat eating because of religious or ethical reasons. While the notion of making meat in a laboratory may be hard to picture for most people, the researchers say that comparing it to a brewery may be a better way to visualize the process. Though more work needs to be done to make lab culture meat a reality, introducing computer models is a critical step in that direction.